So today we will actually jump back to Java. Okay, we'll see what constructors are. Exception handling is okay, right, and then we will see how to manage different elements in Selenium. Okay, so I'll create a new package. Yeah, I'll call it day4. Day4 package, I'll create a new class as say, okay, just a normal class like machine with few properties. Okay, like string name of the machine, int weight machine. Okay, maybe int cost of the machine. Okay, string in which the machine is used. Okay, so these are the different parameters which a machine. Create another class with the main function, say test machine. Object of the machine class, I write machine m1 new machine. Then I will have to initialize every parameter. Okay, of machine, I'll just say a, name is a, then cost is 100. Okay, then industry is say food industry. Machine is from food industry. Okay, so I'll have to initialize, okay, every parameter of this. All right, tough as well. And what if the machine class has got, instead of these four, it has got 10 such parameters? Okay, right. Machine class, instead of having these 4 parameters, the machine class has 10 such parameters. Will you be initializing the 10 parameters separately, like I? And what if you have to create 5 objects? Then for every object you'll have to initialize every parameter, right? So over here we use constructors. The constructors come and over here, that is, they help us to create the object and to initialize the object in a very easy way. Okay, you can make a constructor of a class like this. The name of the constructor is not a function. Okay, this is a constructor. Name of the constructor is same as the name of the class. And it's not going to return type. How is it helpful? What does it do? Okay, I'll just tell you guys, I request you to keep your microphones on mute because otherwise the noise comes out. Okay. Right. Now, Inside it, I'll just print inside constructor. And create the object of the class when you are writing new machine. Then the constructor will automatically. Java calls the constructor creation. The constructor call will happen over here. Okay, if I run this program, you will see it will print inside constructor. Inside constructor, because when I execute this line, it goes inside the constructor over here. At the time of object creation, constructor is called. If I create object, I write over here new machine, just object, no object reference. It is inside constructor over here. Okay, so at both the points, it is calling constructor. How will the constructor help us? Okay, we can have one more type of constructor, that is public machine. Which takes in different parameters, string name, int weight, int cost, string industry. This constructor takes in the name, weight, cost, and industry of the machine. Parameters which you had defined. You can anywhere. You can define them here or you can define them here. It doesn't matter. It is not that you have to define the constructors first. Right. Now, create the object of the machine. You can pass over these four parameters. You can pass that name of the machine is machine, comma. The second parameter is weight. Third parameter is cost and industry. Okay. Then I can send the weight, cost, and industry. I'll write over here. It is this machine belongs to car. Is the various parameters of the machine inside just defined, and as well I can write this global object name for the object is equal to n. Okay. Weight equals to w, cost equals to c, and industry. So you have four parameters in this constructor which is called from here. And send all the four parameters. Okay. Initializes them. name, weight, cost, and industry of the object. Now, in one line, I'm able to initialize the object rather than writing lines. This is the advantage of constructor. Okay, you can print over here m2 dot name, or you can concatenate m2 dot price. So when you run this, right, so whenever a machine object, I just need to initialize it in a very easy way. So this way I will be able to all the objects, the parameters of all the objects on the fly while creating the object. This is the major advantage of constructor, that it basically initialize the object. We will be using constructors in our training in the projects. Okay, so please, if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask me. Okay, right. Now, one more thing. There is a known as, many of you might seen it, or you might have heard about it, right? Operator in Java. Let us see. Okay, at times it's confusing to people as well. Okay, basically refers to the current object. What do you mean by this current object? Okay, right. So if I over here name int weight, hold on, string cost. Now these local variables, okay, their spelling is same as the, okay, and if I write over name equals to name, weight equals to weight, and cost equals to cost, and industry equals to industry. Now I want to say, I want to convey that this on the left hand side is global name, and name on the right hand side is the local name. The global name which is on the top should be equal to the name which is over here, because while creating the object you send the here into the constructor, and then variables have to be put inside the global variables, but the same. Okay, so if I run this code now, this will print m2.name and m2.cost. It is printing null and zero. What it's actually doing is that it is equating the local name to itself only. Both are actually these variables. With this variable, the internal local variable, it is not able to refer the global variable. Local variable hides the variable. You have to use the global one. You have this keyword, this dot name. This is to the current object. Okay, the global variables are a part of current object. This dot name means the global variable name. This means the global variable weight equals to weight, which is this weight. Okay, many times if you work in a project, you will see a code like this. This dot name means the name. All right. So when you run this, you get the right output. So this keyword is nothing. Actually refers the global variables. Okay, if the name of is the same, then with this variable you can refer the global ones, because the local ones they hide the global ones. All right. So this is about constructors. This is about using the this way. Okay. And it's a very important concept, constructors, which we will be using till the frameworks as well. Okay. So I'm not directly jumping over to Selenium right now. Okay. In what we have seen is how to dynamically open the browser. Okay. Launch browser, in which I was creating the objects of Firefox driver, Chrome driver, iDriver. See this, when you create the Firefox driver object over here, you will call the default constructor of Firefox driver. Creating the machine object over here, right? The default constructor of machine object was being called, right? Similarly, when you create the object of driver over here, you will be calling the default object of Firefox of Firefox driver. Right. And Chrome driver, you will be calling them objects. Now, other constructors of these classes. We will talk about that. Okay, first let me take up easy example of exception handling in Java. Okay, now suppose a script is run, right? Say maybe 30 minutes. All right. And you encounter few situations or few errors, which the error can be a failure in the application. Uh, Maybe the title of the web page is wrong. Maybe there is a link on the web page, okay, which should not be there, but it is present. Okay, so basically bug. Okay, maybe there is a bug, or by mistake the browser crashes. All right, maybe when the script is running, the internet failure. So you situations or scenarios or incidences which are maybe not related to the application as well and script fails, or related to the application and the script fails. Okay, so you have to overcome all of these, and all of these are overcome with the help of the concept of exception handling in Java. Okay. Right. So how do you do that? I'll tell you. So over here system.out.println a, and I'll write int I equals to 100 divided by 20 and system.out.println b. Okay. So when you run this code, you see that it is printing a and b, which is perfect. 100 divided by 0 is not acceptable. Okay. And when you run this will only print A, not print B, and give an exception known as arithmetic exception, which is inbuilt inside Java. The arithmetic exception is divided by 0. It gives you the line number as well. Ending.java line number 12. If you click on it, the line as well. Okay. If you click on this link, the line highlights as well. So if you get errors or exceptions, you should not panic. You should first look at the console output and read this properly, that what kind of exception it is and on which line it is coming. Then only it can be resolved. Okay. Suppose like if the script is running, maybe some exception comes up. You want that the script should not stop. Over here, you don't find even if there is a divided by 0 exception, at least my program should not stop. Report that fine, there is an exception known as divided by 0 which has come up. Okay, but the program should. Are you hearing some background noise from my side, guys? Are you hearing some background noise from my side?
Very minute, Ashish.
My daughter is creating a lot of noise.
It's all.
I'm sorry, I missed out the questions which were being asked by Sivan. The first question which was being asked is about the constructors. There is nothing written in constructor, right? Yeah, generally what we do is that it depends on the requirement. Sometimes you can plan based on the requirements in the project. You might also put some values in the default constructor. Okay. What happens when the default constructor is called? Nothing. It is the simple. What happened when you call this constructor? Is the object. What happened when you call this one? You just print it. Maybe if you would have written some logic over here. Okay. Run that logic. Maybe you wanted to connect to database. You could have done that. You can write. Right. Is it mandatory to call default constructor? No, it is not mandatory to call default constructor. You can create the overloaded this constructor as well, and you can only call this one. Okay. Mandatory call the default constructor. Okay. Okay. You print A, then you print B. In between, the error comes up. Program just halts. Okay. The program in between. Yeah, the program.
Ashish, I cannot hear you.
Wrong can happen. I can't hear you. We put a try block around it and a catch. You can exception over here. Some error over here. Error then in the try.
We could not hear you.
Error. Okay.
Ashish,
Right. We just keep system.out.println A out of the try block and B in the end. So A is printing, then and then B is printing. Now if it is 100 divided by 2, if you run this code, print A and B. Right. But if I write 100 divided by 0 and it will print A, error and B. If this line, the control comes in the catch block, where you can manage the error, you can report the error, whatever you want to do. An object of an internal class known as exception is created. You can print the error as well with the help of this object. You can write over here exception dot get message. So when you run this, it will print the error is divided by 0 error. You can report this over here, but you can continue running your code. However, error, then the control will not go in the catch block. It will run normally. Right. Over here, if I print X and after this line I print Y. Okay. And if I run the program, then X is not printed. Exception comes up. As soon as the exception comes up in the try block, the control goes to the catch block. The lines next to that particular line are not executed. Okay, if the exception comes on this line, the lines prior to this line will be executed in the try block, but not after this line. Okay. By 2, then Y and B will be printed, no error, nothing. All right. So look, exception handling is a huge. There are a lot of things inside it. In the pre-recorded videos, I have taken everything. Okay, but in the class, I have some limitations as well. But even if you understand this much, then it's enough to get started with Selenium. Okay, right. So any questions to ask? Yeah.
Was breaking 2 minutes back.
Now it's fine.
Yeah, now it's
Okay.
Ashish, I wanted to ask, like, once we put this try catch exception handling, so once the error get captured, so after the exception handling, does the code runs like to the next, I mean to say next function or the next line of the code, the exception handling? What I mean to say, it will print the B also, correct? System.out.println B, variable B
Comes up.
after exception handling.
Yeah, if it comes up, it will block, and then it can start from the next line after the catch block.
Okay, I got that. Thank you.
That is, it was not printing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of things as well. We will study. Okay. Handling it's a huge thing. All right. Now there is something debugging. Okay. Debugging means running the program line by line, right? Line by line. At times, what happens is that hold on, just a minute. Let's take an example of this. Let's take this. Complex programs. When you write a framework, error comes up. You don't have one Java file over there. You might be having, say, 20, 25, maybe 50, more than that. So you really don't know where what is going wrong. So you have to run the programs line by line over there, and programs and see everything. So debugging the programs is, you just have to introduce a breakpoint. I'm going to double click in front of the line and you will see a small mark coming up. This is known as a breakpoint. Then you click debug and run the program. Instead of running it normally, you run it in. Okay. So when you run this, you get this window, click on switch. It will switch the Eclipse view to the. Okay. Over here, you will be able to see the variables, breakpoints, everything, and you can see the program has stopped on this line. There's a green line, which means the code is stopped on this. Now you can run it line by line by hitting F6. If you hit F6, then this line will be executed and A will be. If you hit F6 again, then this line will be executed, X will be printed. 600 divided by 2, the is 50. Over here in variables, you will be able to see the value of I as 50 in the memory. Okay, so you can run the program line by line and see where it is going. And if you hit F8, it will run normally. Okay, 6 is line by line, and F8 is to run normally. This is very important for beginners. because if you are not able to know what is going wrong, you can debug the programs. I'll run it again in the debug mode. It will stop on this line. And if I hit F6, it will run the line. If I hit F8, it will run normally the program. I can as well. I put a breakpoint on this line. The second breakpoint I can put on maybe this line. The debug mode, the control stops on this line. F6 will run it line by line. F8 will make it run normally. It will stop on the next breakpoint. Okay, so you can make multiple breakpoints in 1,000-line code and keep on hitting F8 and see whether the control is coming to the next breakpoint or not. So this is how you figure where might be the error be. Something like this you can do. If you want to terminate in between, you can also terminate the program in between. Okay, deep gives you a very clear variables as well. Okay, I'll click on this icon on the top right side. Select the window. Okay, so for I write a program like print table. Okay. And in the program I just variable int n equals to 5. Okay, and I write a for loop for int I equals to 1 to I less than equals to 10 I plus plus, and I'll print system.out.println n cross. Okay, right. So if I run this, I can just write it in a fancy way as well. N plus cross plus I plus 2 plus. This way, it might look a little confusing. Okay, so this way, it will give you an output like this. Right, 5 cross 1 is 10, 5 cross 3 is 15, like this. Okay, I've concatenated the cross operator with I. Okay, if I it will print the table of 8 if I change the value of n. Right. Okay, so I can debug this program and see how it is. I can put a breakpoint on this line, run it in the debug mode. It will switch the perspective, and you can actually see line by line that what is happening. You hit F6 on the right hand side, the value of n is 8. Okay, then the value of I is, you hit F6, it prints 8 cross I is 8. Again, the value of I becomes 2, right? So the value of I will keep on increasing. This way you can actually see the changes in the variables at the runtime, and it's a lot. Okay. These are small fundamentals. You might think that fine, we are not using them right now, but as we proceed, we will be using them, and you have to be very clear with these. Okay, right. Now comes the Selenium part. Okay, exception handling, then construct, and we saw how to debug as well. Okay. Now about Selenium, we saw yesterday that how to launch a simple browser. Okay, go to a certain website. Now, how do you click on the elements? How do you manage the elements on the web page? Okay, right. For understanding that, you have to understand firstly that everything on a web page, all right, as far as Selenium is concerned, everything on the web page web element. Documentation of Selenium. If you go to seleniumhq.org, you look at the documentation. Just a minute. Down over here. Look, every time you don't need to go to the documentation on the Selenium website. You can import the documentation in Eclipse. This is the link for Java API docs. Okay, copy this link. All right. You can import the doc of Selenium inside Eclipse. Okay, so this way you don't have to go to the browser. Okay, you copy this URL, open Eclipse, go to the project properties. All right, and you will see Java build path libraries tab where you add the jars. This is the main jar file of Selenium, client combined jar. Okay, expand it, and under the Java doc location, click on it. You give the URL. You remove index.html from the end, it will automatically find it. Just give the URL without index.html. Click on validate. Is likely valid and okay. Now the documentation of Selenium is included inside your project Eclipse. Mouse over Chrome driver. What Chrome driver is? If I move my mouse, it gives me a brief. Chrome driver, create a Chrome driver using default server config. Or if I am writing driver dot, you will get a lot of functions. If you function, you will get the description of the function. For example, close will close the window, quitting the browser. Okay, give you the definition. Get title will get the title of the web, the title of the current page. So this is very good. All right. If you click on any link in the document, then the Java docs will open within Eclipse. You see that? Click on the links. Okay. If I move my mouse over I, or a driver, or the link, you click on the link and the documentation will open within Eclipse. To the frames view, this is the frames view on the top, and you will get the frames. All right, you scroll down, and we have seen till now how you include the documentation. Okay, now till now we have seen the WebDriver interface, and this interface is the basic interface which represents an idealized browser, and all the driver classes they implement this interface. Now there is one more interface known as web element. In Selenium, everything on the browser is a web element. A button is a web element. A link is a web element. A radio button is a web element. Everything in Selenium is a web element. It falls under the category web element. Okay, if you know UFT or QTP, don't confuse it with web element over there. Okay, web element is with okay. Every on the page falls under web element. See, it represents an HTML element. Generally, all the testing operations to do with interacting with the page will be performed through this. So what happens is that this interface gives you functions with which you can interact with the elements on the page. For click, it can click on a button, it can click on a link or click. Okay, get the location of the element, get the size, name, attribute. So there are different functions over here, okay, which will help you to interact with the web element. Okay, right, but how do you find elements, or how do you locate the web elements? How do you deal with everything? All right, okay. If I go to any web page like to CNN.com, on this web page, okay, right, and you right click on element, inspect option in the browser in Firefox as well. I'll talk about this later on. But how does Selenium recognizes these web elements? If Selenium has to click on entertainment, it has to recognize it, right? You as an end user can entertainment and click on it, but how will Selenium identify it? Selenium works on the page source. You write and you will get the option view page source on this page source. Okay, page source comprises of tags and attributes. Okay, what do you mean by tags and attributes? I'll go to another site. Just a minute. Over here, I can't see good tags and attributes. Yeah. So I think it's crashed. I thought WebEx crashed. You guys are able to hear me, right? I think it's crashed. So yeah, it is slow. Okay, get this page source. Look, in page source you have this raw code which has got tags and attributes. A tag will always start from a conical bracket. For example, this is a div tag, one attribute known as ID, other attribute known as class, other attribute known as role. So there are many attributes with this div tag. Okay, every on the web page has got some tag and maybe some attribute as well. Attribute is not mandatory, but tags are mandatory. If URL and maybe I right click on say this link news and I inspect it. Okay, on the browser in Chrome as well as Firefox, you will get the option to inspect. You will see that this is the anchor like href, on click, for different attributes. All right. Similarly, if I look at, say, this text field over here, search text field, it's an input tag. The tag name is input. Okay, the one starting with the conical bracket, this is the tag name. The tag input, and there are other attributes like ID, class, type. Okay, with these tags and the attributes, we actually go and identify the web page, the web elements on the web page. Okay, so now is basically to identify the web elements and to find them. Okay, to find the web elements on the web page, we have got different strategies. Strategies is defined by a class known as, there is a by in Selenium. Every class is static. This class has got the mechanisms used to locate the element within a document. Document means the web page. Okay, there are different mechanisms. You can identify the elements with the ID. Links, you can identify with the link text, with the name of the element, partial link text. Okay, then you have something known as XPath, and you also have something known as CSS selector. I cannot tell you what these things are, but we will have to study these CSS selectors and XPaths. Okay, so this class, by class, gives you different mechanisms or ways with which you can identify the elements. So I'll stop here.